Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit LatinExcellence.com. That's LatinX, CELLENCE.com or LatinXmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth, Hispanic Heritage Month edition. My name is Luis Rosa, and I'm your host. Hispanic Heritage Month takes place from September 15th to October 15th every year as a time to recognize and celebrate the many contributions, culture, and extensive histories of the American Latino community. It first began as Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968, and later on became Hispanic Heritage Month in 1988. Since then, the month has been celebrated nationwide through festivals, art shows, conferences, community gatherings, and much more. The reason it starts on September 15th is because it celebrates the independence days of several Latin American countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua on September 15th, Mexico on September 16th, and Chile on September 18th. They also include holidays that recognize Hispanic contributions, such as the Virgin Islands Puerto Rico Friendship Day, which is celebrated in the U.S. Virgin Islands the second Monday in October. For this month, I'd like to highlight individuals who have made a great contribution in their chosen profession and their community at large. And today I have a special guest going out with a bang. Her name is Arelis Correa. She is the VP, Director of Global Acquisition for Brown-Forman Corporation. With a specialization and passion for recruiting talented people to join Brown-Forman, Arelis has served in talent acquisition roles with increasing responsibility during her 18 years at the company. This includes stints supporting Brown-Forman's former North America region, as well as international divisions. Arelis assumed leadership responsibility for global talent acquisition in 2018 and was named to the HR and Communications leadership team in 2020. She's a true advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and has served in several leadership roles for COPA, Brown-Forman's employee resource group for Hispanic LatinX employees and their allies. In addition, she works diligently and relentlessly to ensure Brown-Forman's talent acquisition processes are aligned and supportive of the company's many spirits, Brown-Forman's diversity and inclusion strategy. Arelis is known for her strong focus on continuous improvement, her dedication to ongoing learning, and her collaborative and innovative mindset. When she's not at work, Arelis is often spending time with family and friends, including her husband and daughter. And without further ado, bienvenida, Arelis.
Gracias. Es todo mi placer estar con ustedes. Thank you so much for the invite. This is a true pleasure. I'm excited that this podcast even exists because generational wealth is something that we all strive for and don't even know where to start. So congratulations, Luis, for even having this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time. I first learned about you through an article I saw in a Hispanic Executive, which I will be putting a link to in the show notes as well for the audience to be able to click and learn more about you. And there were a few things that immediately just stood out to me that I want to ask you about. So one of them was that you came to the U.S. with your family from Puerto Rico at age 11, and so did I. I came from Dominican Republic at age 11. So I was like, wow, we have that in common. And then as I read further, you mentioned that you lived in the basement and there were 2 beds.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first came to New York City from Dominican Republic, my father was renting a bedroom at the time in somebody else's apartment. So he hadn't even secured his own place yet. And there were 2 beds. And we used to call them sandwich beds because they were like casa, they folded like a sandwich and you put them away. And I remember you mentioned it, putting the beds away. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, very much.
It really hit home for me. So if you can share a little bit about your trajectory, just how that came about and everything.
Absolutely. So it was interesting. So I'll give you a little bit of history in terms of my parents. So my parents were both in higher ed in Puerto Rico. Most people that may know of the island and just the compensation system, it is very low. And teachers are paid, at least back then, were paid extremely low. We're talking about hourly wages. And so my mom was a high school teacher, a Spanish high school teacher. And one day she's just like, I'm done. We have 5 kids. We're never going to get anywhere. We need to progress. And unfortunately, we're going to have to leave the island. And my dad thought about it, and with everything we knew, and they had friends that had migrated to the U.S. prior, and they were doing very well. It was just one of those things where she made it in her mind that in order for us to progress and to secure better work, just a future for us, they were going to have to leave the island. And so that was a very bold move that what I call an executive decision my mom made, because she was like, we're doing this. But it was equally as important was the decision my dad made, which was to say, we all go or none of us go. Because at the time, my parents obviously had an option to they would go by themselves, leave us behind. We had a great extended family, super supportive. We could have been fine, but they decided, my dad actually said, we all go or none of us go. And that was really the mentality. And I think that's probably speaks to just how Latinos are. We're super family oriented, and it's, that carried on. And he said, we're going to do this together. And so we sold everything we had. We bought one-way tickets and off we went. And so, we landed in my parents' best friend's home. They had 2 children, but they only had, 3 bedrooms, but they had a basement. And so in that basement with 2 mattresses, no frames, just every day we piled in those 2 mattresses and we put them up, in the morning so that we can have a space, and we made do. And I would say that resilience is such a meaningful word for me, because it was tough. It was tough from the standpoint of just the winter. We came in the fall. So we went from, every day summer in Puerto Rico to literally it's fall, winter in September. And it was that was a shock. So, just having to dive into the weather difference, let alone the language. So the language was another obstacle, but really the weather was something that we had to manage through, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I do remember there were several things that I struggled with myself. So one was leaving literally, right, all my friends behind.
Yeah.
It was coming to a brand new school, new neighborhood, new country, new language.
Yeah.
And then going, like you said, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, right, all day summer, every year round,
Yeah.
And now it's like, boom, snow and like super cold weather. How was it for you adjusting culturally just to the United States in general?
So once my mom decided, hey, this is what we're going to do. Obviously, she's like, let's pick up books. Let's just read. Let's just kind of understand what we're stepping into. And we did as much as that as we could. Obviously, nothing prepares you to walking in. For us, the biggest change or the biggest aha was the homes, because the homes to us look like Barbie doll houses. That is literally what they look like for us. And so, part of that was, it was exciting because it was a completely different structure. And then we were lucky. So another bold move my parents made was, we had 2 options. Either we could go to the Chicago public schools, bilingual programs, which had been established, I think in the 60s or 70s. So they were well established. We could do that, or we could attend the junior high of the family, members that we were with. And there was pros and cons, obviously. One pro about the bilingual schools is that you were going to be taught in Spanish, in your native tongue, but you're just going to take a little bit longer. Or you were going to be just going to mainstream, junior high, and there's no Spanish help aside from a dictionary, that is a Spanish-English dictionary. And so we talked about pros and cons. My parents being in higher ed, they knew that many times kind of sink or swim is better at a certain age, because you're just going to just grasp the language faster. And so that was what they chose to do. They said, we're going to put you guys in a regular public school in the suburbs, and we're going to sink or swim. And so we did. We were lucky enough that the junior high that we went to, the kids, even though we were the first Latinos they had seen, embraced us openly. And so everyone within our grade group, especially our classmates, they all got English, Spanish dictionaries. And off we went to make the best out of, seventh grade and then eighth grade. And so I would say for the most part, it was good because they welcomed us. Obviously, if that would not have been the case, it would have been detrimental for our, immersion. But luckily, we stepped into a neighborhood that welcomed us, and we were able to get through a very difficult year emotionally and just, all the things that can happen during that transition that would happen, but we got through it. And I think I just give a testament to the heart of human kindness and just the spirit of, people just, being good ambassadors of themselves and just being good people.
Yeah, I'm so glad you had the warm embrace. Yeah, because it could have made your transition even worse. How
Absolutely.
You felt like, you didn't fit in. I wanted to point something out based on everything you've said so far. It sounds like, your family is very conscious and intentional about their decisions. And I love that because I feel like it probably has even translated to how you run your professional business now, right? Like your
100%. Work. Yeah.
Because it's like, I saw a quote in the article that said that, part of your philosophy is like serve the business, but challenge the team, and I would imagine that you probably have some of your teammates sink or swim at some point.
Yeah, you have. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do it in the spirit of we're all one team, and they appreciate that. No one feels alone. And I think that does stem from a lot of my upbringing and just how we had to, kind of face, some of the challenges.
Yeah. And the decision your father made to come all together, I mean, that definitely was amazing because I could tell you from my experience, we, because of the immigration laws with the Dominican Republic are different, right? Mm-hmm. We couldn't have chosen that, so it wasn't an option at the time. So like my father came 4 years ahead of us.
Right.
And then my mother came after that. And then we had to come like in pairs, I'm one of 6 siblings. So we were separated for years and years and years. So there was a time where I only saw my father like maybe once, twice a year at most. And,
wow.
There was no FaceTime, there was no Zoom.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we take all that for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely has an impact. And the other thing too, that is very amazing too, how they decided to sink or swim was with the whole schooling situation, because I did go through the bilingual program. And as a result, yeah, it definitely took me a lot longer to finally like assimilate all the way, because I was taking classes in Spanish and then I had English as a second language, and then slowly but surely, but it was a while. Like when I came to the US, went to 7th grade, and I didn't feel comfortable having like a full on conversation in English probably until like maybe sophomore, junior year in high school, because of that. And so their approach was definitely, I'm sure it was harder at first, but it definitely paid dividends.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us. So, I know it takes a village, right? So you had a lot of family members around you. Who was an individual or people that kind of helped shape you, in terms of like mentorship that in terms of your career path and stuff once you graduated and started looking more at like where will you go from a career standpoint?
So I would say it probably started at the university. So I went to a local Illinois university, state university. And during my time there, I was super involved in just anything and everything. I just wanted to be involved in. I really wanted to absorb the whole experience. But one of the groups that I was involved with was the Hispanic kind of coalition or program that the university had. And I just participated in multiple things. Well, one of the program directors said, what are you going to be doing when you graduate? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm trying to figure that out. He's like, I can see you working with people. And specifically, I can see you in the area of HR. And I'm like, what is HR? What's human resources? Because at the time, there wasn't a career path for that. That didn't even exist as a course in school, not like today. And so I said, well, I want to go into law enforcement. I want to be an FBI agent. And I had all these completely different dreams.
No way.
but he kept saying, no, there is something just organically, naturally about you that you really do well in that space. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I kind of kept it in the back of my mind, but somewhat ignored it. But I kept remembering all the descriptors that he used for what it is to be in that department. And so I went off to work at a university doing, again, kind of just trying to figure things out. And then I saw a recruiter ad, literally, when we were all being hired through, an ad in the newspaper back then. And I was like, you know what? Recruiter is under HR. Maybe that could be my stepping stone into that world that this other individual kept telling me about. And literally, I got the job, have never looked back, completely fell in love with the function. And have just continued to evolve myself. And obviously now, with Brown-Forman, I been given the opportunity to really lead this group. And so it's been phenomenal. Now, along the way, I've had managers, I would say 2 in particular, and then I ended up having a mentor at Brown-Forman that really, all these 3 individuals, I would say they played a key role. And they've kind of, I would say, molded me and kind of showed me what to do and what not to do. So I've learned from, I would say, 3 different individuals in my career.
Yeah, that's really great. I think mentorship is so important, because we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely. Yep.
And yeah, a mentor can definitely at least help you avoid some mistakes or even get faster to a goal as a result, right?
Yes.
And I think it's something that is lacking a lot for Latinos too, in a lot of fields. To give you an example, in my field, the financial planning, the Blacks and Latinos make up less than 5% combined of all CFP certificates. So it's hugely underrepresented, so a lot of the times, when people do come into the industry, if they're lacking that mentorship, they might not stay long, because there's just sometimes hard to just know what the career path should be going forward, So it's super important. So I was a big believer in mentorship and also then giving it back as well. Once you are in that role, get a mentee yourself.
Yes, for sure.
And help the next generation. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wanted to ask you, what is one thing that you felt like looking back now that you wish you would have had, that maybe like a resource that was lacking or maybe still lacking today that you observe just in general, as far as like career development or advancement?
I would say, well, back then I truly had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I would spend my summers, while fun, but I spend them at lifeguarding. And so in retrospect, I probably wasted a little bit of time, doing that and not having thought about what to do. However, today there's so many opportunities, there's so many ways, there's so much information at your fingertips that you could really try and begin figuring things out much sooner. But part of that is simply just because of the age we're in. There's no excuse for lack of knowledge because there's so much out there at your fingertips. We used to, and I'm sure you can remember, any information you wanted, you had to go to the library, period. You had to make your way there. You had to spend time, in the box, so to speak, because nothing came to you easy. Nothing was going to come at your fingertip. But now everything is. But I would say, there is no excuse to be able to gain some of that intel knowledge, just start asking questions, being curious, because all that information is there. So I would say, definitely take advantage of your time in college, trying to figure it out, being, again, intentional and saying, okay, what is it that I like, don't like? Who can I ask? But really take ownership of that, because I always tell people there isn't a shortcut to success or success stories or accomplishing something. There isn't a shortcut. You have to do the work. And so if you want to get somewhere, if you want to accomplish something, if you want to have a goal, you need to do the work. And you should have a goal. You should have multiple goals, because you want to be able to know where you're going. To be able to create your road, you need to have an end in mind. And so if you don't have that, then you just kind of walking around, not having an end to the game, and you have to work towards something.
Yeah, that is so key right there. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm a big believer in that. I read, many books, like one like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And the main theme throughout the book is that it's like you have to have what he calls a chief aim in life. And you can have many, like you said. And because it's so true, like if you're just working hard, but it's not towards any goal, like you can land anywhere, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that too, because it's I think you have a much better chance, first of all, by writing your goals down in the first place. And second, to actually develop a plan and going towards them. Because even if you end up moving in the wrong direction, at least you're moving, you can always change course.
Yep.
So that is super important. And you took me back when you started talking about books, and we used to call it the stacks back in school, because you physically had to go to the library.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel old now,
And spend time there. It wasn't just in and out. You really had to spend time.
Yeah, there were no smartphones. I didn't have a computer either. I had to go to the computer lab.
Well, remember, we had typewriters. There wasn't so before that, it was just typewriters. And I remember my dad got us a small typewriter for college, and I thought that was like amazing. And then the computers came about, and so interesting how quickly things have changed. But we may do. So, I mean, good for us. that with very little, we accomplished so much.
I feel lucky to have gone through that, and sometimes have a lack of those resources, because it makes you more resilient, for sure. And, you mentioned like the summer doing lifeguarding. I am a co-founder of an internship program. It's called BLX Internship. And it's for Black and Latinos that are aspiring financial planners, for both students and career changers.
That's
so
awesome.
It's a program we created back in 2020, and it's been pretty successful. In essence, what we do is we pair individuals that would like to explore a career in financial planning, because, like you were mentioning, when you were going to school, there was no HR like major, right?
Right.
And that was the same for me. I didn't know what a financial planner was. None of those conversations were being had in my home. There was no wealth to manage. Right. So we kind of, just try to move the needle forward as much as we can. So people can at least get and it's a paid opportunity as well. So we made sure, because that was one of the barriers to entering our field, which I felt, I always had to work during the summer. Like I couldn't just afford to just not work and go do an internship just to build my resume. Right. So, we pair individuals that want to explore a career in financial planning with a paid internship during the summer with a fee-only financial planning firm. So they're not selling any products. They're strictly working with people, and helping people achieve their goals and build wealth. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, great way to spend your summer. So our applications are actually now open. So those interested can go to blxinternship.org. I want to ask you also, what is one misconception that you believe that people have about like Hispanics in general that you might have come across that?
Oh, God. I mean, I hate to get into politics, but that we all think the same way, we vote the same way. I think that's a stereotype, and it's not right. All our backgrounds are different. Our countries are in different stages, in different, political situations. And so just to put us all under one umbrella, I think it's a stereotype, and it's not right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's so many different cultures within the Hispanic Latino community. Sometimes, it's funny, like I've gone on vacation, say to Mexico, and, we both speak Spanish, but there are different words that mean different things. Even us have a hard time communicating sometimes.
Yeah, well, I've actually told my daughter, I said, honey, just so you know, this word means this in the Caribbean, but it means completely different if you go to South America.
It could be an insult. It could be a bad word.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. What is one superpower that you have, or if you don't have one, what is one you would like to have if you had the ability to?
Wow. I think one superpower, I'm going to call it superpower. My husband would probably agree, is I am a huge positive thinker. So no matter how bad the situation is, I just organically will pull something good out of it. I just do it out of just my innate. It's kind of embedded in me. It's in my DNA, so to speak. I'm just a positive thinker. So no matter what is happening, it could be raining, stormy, and someone's like, oh my God, it's so gloomy, it's so dark. I'm like, yeah, but the flowers are getting all this great rain. And so I'm constant. So I think it's a superpower, I think, because it does help, especially when you're having, to deal with situations, or you dust yourself back up or dust other people back up. It's easier to do that when it's naturally something that you're gifted with. And now, one that I would want to have, if I had to pick one, I would say more courage. I have courage about certain things, and other things I don't have as much. So I think that would be a superpower I'd like to gain or strengthen, is that courage muscle. Yeah.
Got it. In terms of the courage, would that be to push yourself to do things in the presence of fear, or just not have fear in the first place?
Both. Yeah. But not having fear in the first place, it's sometimes you can't help it. But what you can help is what you do once you have it. So yeah, I would say, if I could have that or work towards that, that would be one great superpower.
Yeah. And it's funny because your first one could feed the second one, just by having the positive outlook.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying.
Now, let me ask you this. What do you think of somebody who that doesn't come natural to? How do we kind of train ourselves to build that muscle slowly, to think positively out of every situation, to kind of see what's the seed here that I'm supposed to plant out of this bad situation?
I would say, and this is what I tell my own family, is how is not thinking that way serving you? So let's just say that you are thinking something negative. Then I challenge them and say, how is that serving you? It's that thought, not being able to think of it in the other way, is that thought that you just had, is that serving you well? Because if it's not, then let's not have it. Because typically it doesn't. It's not easy. Of course, it comes easy for me, so it's easy for me to say it. But I would say, if that statement you just made and it's a negative one, if it's not serving you, then is it worth having, or continuing to promote it, or stay in that state for long?
Yeah, and I think too, if somebody, like, say, going back to career, if they don't know what they want to do, but maybe they know what they don't want to do, and maybe
absolutely
they can start flipping that to the positive and maybe find their way.
Yeah. So my daughter right now, she's a senior in high school, and we are obviously having those conversations with her. And she wasn't sure what she wanted, but I said, but let's talk about what you don't want, because if you're clear on that, then you know where to stay away from, or what better direction, or what is it that you're not going to do. So even exactly to your point, even knowing what you don't want is a good direction, because it gives you what I call parameters or guardrails as to what to stay away from. That's
a great point. Yeah, because you basically use that as a filter to then help you make decisions going forward. Yeah,
absolutely.
That is a great point. Absolutely. Since this is a financial podcast, I wanted to ask you, going back to your early childhood memories about money? Is there anything that sticks out, like part of that kind of helped shape your money story that you saw growing up?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say my grandfather, well, two things. So my grandfather, who's no longer with us, he was amazing. Well, I have obviously two grandfathers, but one I grew up with, the other one, we didn't grow up with as much.
Same here.
But we became close to him when we were a little bit older. But so he worked super hard. So I would say all our work ethics really comes from him. He's just a huge role model for us. But he played the lotto, la loteria, of course, played the loteria. And he was always about making good, thoughtful decisions and being mindful. And so it's okay to play the loteria, but you're not also going to play all your money. You know what I mean? So he would always say, "Mija, we got to work hard. You know, it's okay to have fun, but you want to be thoughtful in how you're using your money." And so that it speaks true to me. Now, on the other side, my father, he taught us no credit cards, don't overspend, don't live outside your means. And those are, very good values. And just, again, I would use the word guardrails, because if you don't have that, you could really do some damage to yourself. If you're living outside your means all the time, if you don't get control of, your finances, just putting value to the things that you want to attain, and then how to retain them. You could really, really go off the trails. So I give them both props for having had, I would say, anchoring us with some good values.
Yeah, absolutely. I on my website, I share some of the money mistakes I've made when I was younger. One of those was getting into credit card debt at a very early age. In college, going back to the bookstore, they had the credit card applications embedded.
So easy.
In the books. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better. I applied, got approved for like $250 credit limit, and every time my credit limit got increased every 6 months, so did my balance.
Yeah. They get you. That's how they start you off super early in college. And it's a balance, because I had one of my nieces, she was graduating from high school in college years. And she's like, "Oh, I want to do this and that, but I don't have any credit." And so it's a double-edged sword, because you almost do need a credit card to create a line of credit, but you don't want to abuse it. So it is a fine line. And so I'm not going to say don't use credit card, but you just have to be mindful. It has to be for a purpose, and it has to be very well watched.
Yeah, it's one of those necessary evils that in order to build credit, you have to demonstrate that you're able to pay back, right? So yeah, there's a smart way of certainly having credit cards. You don't need to carry a balance. You can, just pay for things you were going to pay for anyway, like subscriptions, right? And just pay it off at the end of the month and be fine, right? And just build that credit.
Yep, exactly.
In my case, yeah, I wish I would have known that. I just straight up carried a balance for years and years. And it's quite the hindrance. You combine that with student loan debt as well, graduating, and it's like, talk about wasting time, right? It's definitely put me behind the 8 ball for a long time, for sure.
Yeah.
So so let's do some fun stuff. Tell me, what is your favorite dish?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Wow, that is tough. I don't know if I have. It depends. It depends. My dad cooks. He's kind of our own little chef.
Oh, nice.
And so I have my favorite, "Daddy, it's my birthday, you got to make this for me" kind of dishes.
Okay. Yeah. What's that?
So that would be arroz relleno, which is actually if you think about lasagna, it's kind of that concept. So it's rice, it's chicken. He puts a layer, instead of a layer of cheese, but also mayo. Anyway, so he makes it amazingly. And so that's kind of my favorite dish from him. But overall, I am very eclectic when it comes to food. I like all foods. I like things that are very savory. So if anything that I can really taste what's in it, like garlic, herbs, basil, I don't know if I have like one favorite dish more so than the style of the food. Like it has to be savory. I want to know that it's not bland. It's got soul and heart in it. Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I make pretty much everything with sofrito. So, you come to my house and you're going to smell. It's something is cooking, and it could be the simplest dish, but it's going to smell amazing.
Yeah. Tell me about this arroz relleno. Is it the consistency? Is it like a pastelón kind of thing? Like
almost like a pastelón. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's absolutely just like that. And it's it kind of looks like lasagna because it's high, kind of, pile it up like that.
It has layers.
And it has layers. And he makes it so that it's got that reddish. It's like a reddish, rice, not the white rice.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm picturing it. Nice. Yeah, sounds very, very delicious. I assume there's some coquito in the house too for the holidays.
Always. Obviously, Christmas would not be anything without coquito. So there's a lot of coquito. We do make, tostones quite often. And we are certainly the staples continue to be what we have at the house. And yeah, but we like to eat everything and anything that has a little bit of soul to it.
Yeah, for sure. You may laugh at me, but like I eat mostly a plant-based diet, and my wife is vegan. So I found a vegan recipe for coquito. It's with coconut milk, but it has like condensed coconut milk, evaporated coconut milk, and regular coconut. So 3 types of milk, but they were coconut. So basically that was the only switch. There's still some white rum in there.
Awesome.
But it's delicious though, for sure. What about favorite music?
Ooh, wow. I'm super eclectic too. I will say that if I'm like, let's just say if I'm going to go work out and I'm like, I do not want to at all, I have to put some Daddy Yankee. That will just take me there. I can quickly, regain my energy, and I'm ready. So I would say I listen to everything. Literally, I have everything in my radio mix. I like classical music. I like opera, but I also like some heavy metal. I love country. Certainly, the old traditional, Puerto Rico music, the Jibaro music. I love that. I mean, totally eclectic, completely eclectic. But if I need a quick pickup, I would say Daddy Yankee right now is my go-to.
Yeah, he's a classic. I know he's either retiring or already did. It's a long career. I think I saw some headline, that he was like having his last concert soon or something.
It's his last concert. He's coming to Chicago, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to make it. Yeah, it's going to be. He claims he's retired. We shall see.
Yeah, he probably won't.
Yeah,
he probably can't stay away. Growing up, I used to love salsa. Growing up, and Frankie Ruiz was like my favorite.
Oh wow! Yeah.
In the Dominican Republic, like more known for like merengue and bachata, right?
Yeah.
But salsa was a big component.
Yes.
So yeah, like my brother plays the congas, so he's whenever we get together, it's just so funny. Like he'll bring out the congas, right? And then somebody else brings out the essincero, right? Like that metal bell, and next thing you know, it's like a whole band is.
I know, but it's funny because for our birthday, anyone's birthday, in the absence of maracas and guiros and anything else, any good pot, just grab a pot and you just bang away. It's hilarious, but we do it. That's we have to have music, and
it's so funny that you say that, because I'm thinking, sometimes with the 2 sticks that they use to make. I've seen people use the ones that you use to mash the tostones,
Oh yeah.
Use that
sure. For sure. Anything that makes sounds, we're going to make do. Yeah, for sure.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it's amazing though. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I wanted to ask you a couple more things. One is if you are on social media, if people want to connect with you anywhere, like I will put a link on the show notes. Is anywhere else that you favor, like as far as, whether it's LinkedIn or anything like that?
Yep. LinkedIn. I would say I have my Instagram is super tiny. I'm not on it too much. I would say I leverage probably LinkedIn most.
Okay. I'll make sure to put your LinkedIn profile on the show notes. And then last thing is, if you were in an elevator ride with somebody and you will never see them again, because it's a short ride, they get off on the floor and off they go, what would be one or two things that you would like them to take away that you have learned throughout your life that you would say, look, if I never see you again, like, here's something I would like to share with you?
Wow. I was going to trick you and say, okay, this elevator, is this in a hotel? I'm with this person again. Okay, but no, two things. I would say that life is short and it must be embraced. And it could be not necessarily, oh my God, I have to get to Bora Bora, because that's like the most amazing place. But how about the smallest things? How about that walk that you haven't done with your spouse, or you haven't, taken your mom out, just spend quality time, just her. So it's really embracing life, being thankful for the blessings. And I don't want to get spiritual, but just being thankful for the things that we have. And we so much oftentimes focus on the negative and the things that we don't have. We should really focus on what we do have and kind of making that have that rise to the top. But it could be the smallest things. Not everything has to be, gosh, I can't wait till I get my Ferrari. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It could be the smallest things in life, because oftentimes we can't take any of it with us if you think about it. So we really do. I was just say embracing life, just being a yes person. People that I'm a mentor of, I always tell them, be a yes person. Figure out what you said yes to later, but first say yes, and expose yourself to new experiences, to new opportunities. I would say those two things. Embrace life. Just do as much as you can with it. And it could be some small things, but just really embrace it, and then be a yes person. Be a yes person.
Yeah, I love that. I think, you hit a great point. I mean, sometimes we get so wrapped up into what we don't have because, we have goals, obviously, and it's completely fine. But sometimes we let the lack of that consume our thoughts and affect our moods on a daily basis, right?
Absolutely.
And I like to say, too, not to get spiritual, like you said, but there was a time when you prayed for what you have today, and yeah, when I think about it that way, it's like, wow, yeah, there are certain things that I have now that I'm like, there was a time when this was my goal to be here, right? So I'm like, I got to put that into perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Arelis. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is amazing. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I told you we were going out with a blast. If you have any questions, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.